Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I have a slide. Can I have the slide on, please? My name is Dumebi. I am the head of school Hadassah Hall, Crèche Nursery and Elementary School. So Asaba. So this is not the first. Can I have the first slide, please? So I'm talking about food policy, how to come up with a food policy in your setting using Hadassah Hall as a case study. When Eziaha was talking earlier on, when she had her speech, she mentioned how she came into this journey, into this ministry of wellness revival. You know, she started with the scripture in Ezekiel and how she got the word sentinel or sentinel. Is this sentinel or sentinel? So hers is a beautiful story. Mine wasn't that way. I went into this because I just had to save my child. I waited for 9 years before I had my daughter. I was Eziaha's bridesmaid. And as soon as my daughter was born, so before then, you know, the excitement of being a mother, I had everything ready for her. I had SMA Gold, Geba, everything. I said, this child that I suffered for, you will eat and you will quench. But at about 7 months, maybe shortly after 6 months, I was rushed to the operating room and I gave birth to my baby. And my baby wasn't eating. She was rushed to the ICU because the first meal, I wasn't lactating, so the first meal we gave to her, she threw up, she was rushed to the ICU, they brought her back. I was in the hospital for about 7 weeks because my daughter was not eating and she was in the ICU. And it was a miracle that we left. By the time we left, I was just told that my daughter doesn't like milk. She was lactose intolerant, something intolerant. That's the intolerance list was long. I was amazed that I suffered to get this child. And now God gave me a child that was intolerant to everything that I loved. You know, so I went home very heavy, but determined that I would look for all that was necessary to feed my daughter. Her name is Adesua. So, yes, so the story is long, but the long and short of it is I breastfed my child until she was about 2 years, 8 months, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed breastfeeding because I suffered during pregnancy, and I said I ain't doing this journey again. So all the breast milk I had for all my children, I pumped it into Adesua. But my concern was, as she was growing old and breast milk wasn't enough, I didn't have what to feed her. She didn't like anything, only water and breast milk. And that's when I was telling her, I didn't know I was seated beside the person that gave my daughter her first meal. That's August Secrets. I have never met her before. Today, it was only when she sat here and said August Secrets, I was like, hey, see my savior! Like, she literally saved my daughter. I had all the packages. The first time I was, you know, I had tried a lot and nothing. As she takes it, she vomits. And when my daughter is vomiting, she will vomit that no drop of what is left or what you gave her is in her system. So you can give her a spoon and she will throw up everything in 10 folds. So all the things I was trying on her, none worked until I gave her, I started with the fruta meal. And I went towards veggie beans and always having crayfish. And that's how my daughter started eating. And then I started introducing her to beans. Her favorite food is beans. She doesn't eat junk food. She doesn't eat meat pie. She doesn't eat cakes. She doesn't take Coke. She doesn't take Sprite. She doesn't take Ribena. Everything that children love, my daughter does not eat them. So I went back to Asaba from Ibadan. And I had to look for a school for my child. Before then, you know, because I was a teacher, I'm still a teacher. So because of her meal style, they had to give me an office at work in Ibadan so that I could breastfeed my child before class, go to class, come back and breastfeed. So we had an understanding on my kind of mothering my child. But by the time my daughter was ready to go to school, I had to look out for options for her, and I didn't find any. But along the line, I opened Hadassah Hall. And I was determined that every child that comes within Hadassah Hall or comes into our school community eats well. Because my daughter doesn't eat junk. She hasn't taken junk. Just once in a while, you might give her. But you're sure that once she takes junk, her night is very unpleasant. So very, very so she's very mindful of what she eats. And she's healthy. She doesn't go to the hospital. At least she's going to be 6 years in October. I can count the number of times I have taken my daughter to the hospital. And every time I take her to the hospital, it's because she has eaten something or I forced her to eat something that she doesn't eat. Now, it's possible that I found out that my daughter likes anything homemade. So even after I couldn't get August Secrets in Asaba, we started doing our own pap. We started doing our own kuli oil because I must put oil inside whatever. Even till now, I can't use vegetable oil to fry eggs for her. It has to be groundnut oil. Thankfully, I'm with my mom. So it's my mom that does all the food work and all of that. And my daughter is very healthy. She's about... Where's that noisy doctor? The noisy doctor gave an age range but my daughter is about 25 kg plus. Very, very healthy. And all her food is made from home, made from scratch. She doesn't eat beef. She doesn't eat chicken. She doesn't eat turkey. It must be fish, fresh fish or dried fish. She doesn't take suya, doesn't take grilled fish, doesn't take burger, none of that. Like, it doesn't matter how fancy it looks. Her best meal is eba and banga soup with fish. Of course, she can't take it to school, but she prefers it. She likes rice and banga soup or rice and pepper soup. She doesn't eat pasta. She doesn't eat pizza, shawarma, all those things that have cream, nothing. So she's the most boring eater, but I love it because it saves me a lot. I don't have stress when it comes to her feeding. No Ribena, no happy hour. You must be plain juice. She must see you squeeze the juice. You must squeeze the juice. You must squeeze the mango. So she only likes oranges, mangoes, and pineapples, then grapes. Any other thing, she's not interested. Now, I'm like, okay, I've started this journey with my child, and I want other children. I've seen what it does for her. My daughter started reading at the age of 3. Someone they told me was having some brain dysfunction when she was a child. She's a very, very intelligent child. And I wanted that in my school setting. So my work with my daughter made me understand nutrition, wellness, and how it relates to raising a successful child in the school environment. So I think Eziaha has me here to talk about how we implement and sustain policies in a school environment. You can now relate it to whichever setting you're in. It can be in a church or in a club or anything. So can I go to the next slide? I'll be showing you the practical approaches that I use in Hadassah Hall, which is a full Montessori school, and how we incorporate the curriculum and have gotten parents on board with what we do. Of course, you'll be talking to someone or listening to someone who has reverse autism. I'm a speech therapist and I also work with special needs children. And part of what we do is to also give meal plans that help them in the classroom setting. Can I have this next slide, please? I know I have about 20 minutes, so I'm going to rush through. Some of the things that have already been talked about, I won't talk about it. The next slide talks about how powerful educational institutions are. So if you have worked in a school setting, or you're a teacher, or you're a Sunday school teacher, you should understand the kind of influence you have in your school community, because we are role models, especially if you have a very, very strong personality. I've worked as a teacher and I understand the power that a school has. Most times, that's why you have children are a bit fearful or more respectful towards their teachers than towards even their parents. And that's why you can threaten your child, I'll report you to your teacher. Okay, so we have that kind of influence in school. Parents want to listen to us because we are taking care of part of their heart. I like to say we are taking care of you. Your children are extension of your heart that you've given to us. So educational institutions are very, very powerful, very, very powerful in pushing out policies. And that's why whenever you're pushing out a policy, you make sure it makes sense, especially directed towards the success and the future of the child. I tell people who care to listen that if you understand your role and you relate that role to the love a parent has for their child or for the children, then you have done about 80% of the job. Every parent here loves their child. Every parent in your school loves their child, okay? Even when they seem to react, is just because of their child. So whatever policy you put in place must be related to, or that you must bring it under the canopy of the love that the parent has for their child. And that is what we do. That is the kind of approach that we use in Hadassah Hall. The next slide, please go to the next slide. I think the next slide talks about the governing board. Do you know that governing bodies play a key role in school food? So we have a board of directors, we have board of patrons, and all of them I intentionally put those sets of people who I respect so much and whose values align with mine to be members of my board of directors, and we form policies that are for the benefits of the children. Now, in putting in place a food policy, please can I have the next slide? A food policy now, for instance, we understand that, as Eziaha has rightfully mentioned, when your child is well, your child studies better, and it translates into a successful child, a successful future. So I'll be focusing a lot on why governors need to get involved. What is the whole school approach? I'll talk about that approach, and I'll now move down to the most effective ways. I'll leave health. So this presentation, most times when I do it, is about 3 days, about 100 slides, but I've reduced it to about 20. So I'll just pick the major points. Board of Governors. A school that has a board of governors, you're there to create structures, create clarity, implement and monitor whatever policy that you put in place for the benefit of the child. Yes? And so the board of governors now go with the whole school approach. This whole school approach takes in every part of the school. So the school is made up of children, parents, staff, management, and maybe other business vendors and all of that, partners. The board of governors system, or the board of governors structure for food policy, goes better than the champion approach. Of course, we are here as wellness champions, but why I like to use my board of governors for policies is because it's sustainable and it outlives them even if they move on, which is better than a champion's approach, an individual approach. For instance, you could be in a school and you are a champion for, let's use this as an example, a wellness champion in Save Our Children's School. The problem with that is when you leave, your vision drops, declines, and it dies, especially if you don't have people on board with you. So it's good to be a champion. You can have parents as champions, you could have a board member as a champion, you could have a teacher, you could have head girls that take on projects as champions. But if you're the sole visionaire, you're the sole driver, When you leave, maybe you graduate or you relocate or you find a better job, that vision goes with you. So you see that sometimes some teachers, they come in, oh, this wellness drive is beautiful, and let's do it. They are the ones championing it. The board of governors are not aware, or maybe they are aware, like, okay, good job, it's something she likes doing, it's her hobby. They call it your hobby. So there's so much energy when you're around. You are the one that handles the assembly, you're the one that handles the club. Everything that has to do with that wellness is just centered around you, just one champion. The day you now decide I'm relocating to Canada, then it means that that wellness drive is coming down. So it's a good approach, but it's a very, very risky approach. So it is not encouraged at all. That brings in the whole school approach, where everybody is a champion. The board of governors sets the rules, documents the standards and the policies, and then carry on board the parents, the teachers, the students, and the whole school community. Can we move on to the next slide? In the case of documentation, it's always important to, okay, so every picture that you see here is from Hadassah Hall. We like to eat. Asia has said we are always eating. We are always doing something in school, and we like to eat, and we like to eat healthy. Please permit me to go forward. My glasses can't pick what is happening here. So my mission statement in brief is creating a healthy and safe space for children to learn. Now that covers being healthy, enjoying physical and mental health, staying safe, being protected from harm and neglect, enjoying and achieving, developing skills, making positive contributions, and all of that. Can you go to the next slide, please? So everything that our mission statement entails is what we cover in all setting our school policies and standards. Now we have 4 areas of health. In the aspect of health, you must have healthy eating and drinking, comprehensive personal, and I think I've gone through all of this, physical activity, because exercising goes well with good food and eating and all of that. The next slide, please. Good. So now for governor's strategic policy framework, I have listed 10 steps, and I'll be very, very fast going through this one. The first one is governing body self-review. Where are we? Where are we going to? What do we want to do? And all of that. You have a review. Can you go to the next slide? I think I have a sample of the checklist that you could use. Now, in Hadassah Hall, we have food and nutrition is in the curriculum, and that's the best approach, mixing your curriculum with other activities to give it an enriching feel. So we have a kitchen, modern kitchen, we have indoor kitchen, we have outdoor kitchen, and all of that. So every meal that we cook is under the guidance of a nutritionist. We have a nutritionist in school. Foods that are brought into school are censored. So right from the admission phase of a parent stepping into Hadassah Hall, you have a parent handbook, and the parent handbook contains our food guidelines. We don't allow junk food in school, particularly because I also work with special needs children. We are very, very particular about what children bring into school. Of course, it's very difficult for some parents. You have parents complaining, I'm so busy, I'm this. Before you buy the admission form, you are told from the start, we do not allow this certain kind of food in Hadassah Hall. You sign an agreement with us, then you can now purchase the admission form. If you by mistake hide food, junk inside your child's lunch pack, we send it back to you with a note. By the 3rd time, we tell you, please don't come back to our school. Because by the time you're bringing in those junk things and you're letting children see it, other children want to have a taste. Oh, why is he bringing in junk food? Why is this happening? So right from the start, if you're going to be implementing a policy, you have to be intentional about making sure that everybody is on the same page with you. It also goes for our onboarding processes. When we are recruiting staff, we have them go through a session on nutrition. Remembering that I said that educators are also influencers, they influence the children. We also want healthy educators. We want them to also practice what we as a school community are preaching. So the staff go through a session, go through a training on the kinds of foods that we want our children to see them eating. They go through a session about the kinds of meals that should be served in club activities, in school activities, in breakfast clubs. And then if you have to be a vendor in Hadassah Hall, you must go through a series of certifications. We want to see certain certifications that show that you understand the basics of feeding children. And we have three major ones. We have HOD, we have Amo Wellness, and then my sister, Maize Meals and More. We are very careful about our vendor. So it's not that, oh, her cake is the best in town, go and get the cake. We have certain recommendations or certain criteria that have to be met before you are onboarded as a vendor to do anything in a school gathering. Okay? So even, for instance, when we have parents programs, we have meals that we serve, we have kinds of foods that we serve. And for all our vendors, we have inspectors that go, members of the board, go to their kitchens to see, let's even see how this person's kitchen looks like. It also goes down to the kitchen. We want to see. And by the time you start telling us long story, my kitchen is under renovation, a flood came, you just know that you're not even serious. Because whatever you're going to feed the children, or the parents in the graduation ceremony, the children are also going to be part of it. We'll ask you questions. What is your take on added sugar? What is your take on flour products? How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you create healthy meal plans for children with special needs? Do you understand the meal plans for children with special needs? Have you ever heard of ADHD, for instance? That's attention hyperactive deficit disorder for children. Do you know how to help children control sugar? Do you know the kind of meals to do? We want to see it, we want to taste it. Because healthy meals don't also mean bitter food or unsavory foods. You can eat healthy and still enjoy the taste of the meal. So we have sessions where we call vendors. Once in a session, we have an event where we call in vendors that want to be on our school system. Come and show us what you're all about. How do you take care of children? How do you source for your food? How do you source for your vegetables? If you even source for your vegetables in your house, if you have homegrown products, we are on board that. So like Maize Meals and More, for instance, grows her own vegetables. She has her own garden. And we also want to know the kind of fertilizers for those kind of people. Because even some of the fruits that we take, how they were grown is also very questionable. There was a research I was reading on autism in Rwanda, Kenya, and a lot of children that were born within a certain year, we are in contact with vegetables that were grown using very harsh, what do you call them, fertilizers. And so a lot of children in that locality in Kenya had special needs. So down to even how you source for your grains, we want to know about it. And there are proper documentation to guide this process. Can you please keep on, just be moving, okay? Then you now have club activities, you know, schools and clubs. What are the rules guarding or governing the meals that you serve in your club activities? For instance, we have reading club, you have, okay, so these are some of the checklists. Has your governing body discussed the food policy? Have they agreed on a whole school approach? Do you have a delegated budget for school meals? If you cook your food for all the children, serve lunches, except during special programs or when you're having home economics club, nutrition club, or anything that has to do with cooking. But for lunches, we do not cook lunches. If you're cooking lunches, there are certain rules that guide that. Your nutritionist, your chef must have an understanding of nutrition, basic nutrition. You'll be surprised that a lot of nutrition teachers or home economics teachers do not even know the 5 types of food categories that was mentioned this morning by our nutritionist. Okay, so now this goes down. By the time you get to breakfast clubs, we have breakfast clubs in schools, we have break time snacks. We don't allow, like I said, we don't allow junk food for snacks. Your snacks must be healthy snacks. You can have banana loaves, you can have fruits and all of that. Talk shops, school lunches, packed lunches, vending, water. Now, water. We don't serve water to our children from our tap. We have a treatment plant, but we prefer to give them bottled water. And we encourage parents to come in with enough water for the children. It's very, very important. You know, I'm very particular about water. So, your children come to school with enough water. We don't allow frozen water, room temperature water for all the children. And there's a reason for that. And then if your child's water finishes in the process, we offer you bottled water. But we don't give water from the tap. We have a treatment plant, but the directors have just said no giving of any child water from the school tap. It can be used to cook, it can be used for outdoor play, it can be used to clean, but we do not allow our children to drink water from the tap. And for the water we use in our school, for the children, we have gone to the water plant and we have seen the situation of what is happening there, how sanitized the place is, how sanitized the water, the people even in charge of water, do they even know how to purify the water? Now, when you're having a whole school approach, it's also easy to bring in people from the ministries. They have an idea, oh, this is what Hadassah Hall wants to do. And we tell them, please, can you give us your records, your inspection records? What do you have to say about these certain people that do this type of water? Those ones, so they give it to us and we now decide the best option. Sometimes they even give us recommendations based on what the inspectors have seen. Okay, so that is the whole school approach. Now you can see that all the points that I'm listing, I'm rushing through so that you will see that sometimes a champion cannot do all of this. One person cannot do all of this. It's just so much. And that is why we still go back to the whole school approach where everybody, every partner in the school community knows the importance and where you're going to for this wellness activity that you have chosen to begin in your school. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide. Next slide. So for your structure, sorry, let me put a structure. So when you're starting a structure for a committee, you have the finance committee, and then you also have the curriculum committee. And then you now have a nutrition committee that is made up of the school matron, the home economics teacher, the head of department of the home economics subjects. You know, you have, they fall under different sections in the school. Then you have a parent who understands nutrition. You can find out any parents during the PTA meetings. You can even have volunteers who understands nutrition. For instance, if Aziaha was in my school, she'd probably be a part of that committee because she understands nutrition and the importance of having a healthy eating habit in the school. Then you also make sure you have people from the children's body, that's from the students, especially if they are in secondary school, members of the students' board, the head boy and the head girl, because they'll also help to drive the movement for you. Then you now start putting in the reviews, have people go through your policies. We have a nutritionist in Abuja who goes through our school policies on nutrition and helps us to update them. Now, when we put this as a document, we just print about 100 copies. Once that copies are about to be exhausted, we call for an update meeting, call it a meeting of update, to update whatever documentation that we currently have on nutrition based on what our nutritionist in Abuja has sent to us. So if there's nothing to update, we have a reprint. If there's something to update, we discuss about it. We talk about how possible it would be to implement that new update, and then we update the documentation and then print. For all parents who are already in our school, you just send them an updated PDF of the policy. Then for new parents, you just have the discussion with them. Now, this is for schools that actually have interviews with their parents before they come in. For Hadassah Hall, you can't even buy the form without having an interview. We want to see you, want to talk to you, want to know what you're all about. And if your values don't align with our values, we don't bother selling an admission form to you. Because we also want to be careful about the children that our own children come in contact with. We don't want to just expose, and because the world is getting dangerous, Pastor Mildred said that the devil is after the lives of children. So we want to know. I'll be talking to a parent, what are your views on homosexuality? Oh, Africa is such a backward country. Africa is just a backward continent. Be open. Right there, and they'll tell you, oh, really? So your take on this is that is okay. Say, well, God created everybody. That remember too that it was men that edited the Bible. So they might have removed, and once that conversation starts, I don't even bother. No. Because I don't want my child growing up and thinking that some things are normal. You come for an admission interview and you're half naked. You can't even cross the gate because I don't want my child normalizing nakedness. So those are the things we look out for before we allow you to come in. So even at the point of coming in, these are the kind of discussions we have. And by the time we tell you, oh, we have a food policy, please, I don't want stress. My child likes this, he likes that, I'm not ready. Once you say you're not ready, we don't even want the drama of trying to convince you. Of course, we will try, but we can't even love your child more than you love your child. And if you think that we are just being too strict or being too insensitive, then we don't let you even cross the gates. Because your children will come in contact with children from other families. And because they are children, you have cross-culture. The culture they bring from one home moves into another child, and the child takes it home, and that's how it keeps circulating. And that's why when you come to our school setting, you meet parents of like minds. Our policies implementation is not hard at all, because right from ground zero, right from the starting point of you coming into us, right from the selection process, we decide who comes in based on the values that we see or we detect at the admissions interview. So when we say, oh, like I'm going back now and saying water is king, don't do some of the things that Eziaha has mentioned here. It's not going to be hard at all. It won't even take up to 15 minutes. And for us, we don't have parents PTAs for 1 hour. PTA 30 minutes because, sorry, I don't like long meetings, but I think once they understand that you're doing this for the benefit of the child, like the noisy doctor said, was it noisy doctor or the pastor? He said, I'm not treating the parents. I'm working on your child. I'm not treating the parent. I'm working for your child. I'm working for the success of your child. And you'll be proud so many years from now that, oh, my child was very successful in school. I raised a successful child. So once we come for meetings like this and parents are seated down, okay, Ms. Dumebi, why are you implementing this? I give my points. I give data to support what I'm saying. And then we move forward. I have a specialist come and talk, and everybody signs. Do you sign? Yes. And that is all. And we continue. No stress at all. We don't have fighting parents or parents coming to school to fight the teacher or coming to Sunday school to fight the pastor, that this policy is too stressful. Everybody knows whatever you're doing. It might seem tough, but it's for the benefit of who? The child. The child. Thank you. So can we move forward? So yeah, we have clubs, you have for children to get along on, like Asia has said, you have to engage children. Our children know how to cook. My daughter knows how to prepare her meals. Most of them anyway. She likes frying plantain. in her kulikuli oil, and when she sniffs it, and she, the kulikuli has an aroma. When she sniffs oil and it's not kulikuli oil, she knows that it's not kulikuli oil. So even in her club, maybe when they're having club activities, she has her own special spices. Her best spices are ginger and pepper. She loves pepper a lot, and she loves ginger. Okay, so now you have children cooking right from the onset. They are taught about the types of food that are healthy, they are good for their bodies. So these are the nursery school students at this side, and those are the elementary school children at the other side. And they love cooking. They can tell you when a meal is healthy or unhealthy. My children could read a pack and say, oh, Miss Dumebi, so many things on this pack don't sound right. They might not have an understanding, a clear understanding, but so far so good. Even when they go to parties, I love the testimonies when parents say, oh, my child doesn't take Coke anymore. They go to parties and all they're asking for is water. It makes me so happy. It makes me so glad. Okay, can you move to the next slide? Okay, so this is cooking club. Our children make, so for all the clubs, we have a list of all the foods that we cook for the session or for the term based on even parents' recommendations. And so most of the children, they'll tell you, I don't eat swallow at home. In school, they eat swallow. For club activities, they eat swallow. You can see this is pounded yam and okra soup. And those are the spices. Our children know how to name spices. They know how to dice meat. We've made it such that they are in charge of what they eat. So sometimes you just say, what are we going to eat today? And somebody will say cornflakes. Most of our children, they don't eat cereal. I encourage them to bring in, like Asia has said, those cornflakes, Kellogg's. My daughter doesn't even take those things. So our children in Hadassah Hall are not also encouraged to take cereals. They have well-made food, rice, yam, eggs. They know how to make their food. They know how to make. Once you get to nursery level 3, you're allowed to start experimenting cooking by yourself in groups and as individuals. You even have small club competitions to encourage that. Can you just be go through the next slide? Because I think I've covered a lot of what I want to. Now, policy development takes in school lunches. Like I've said, we don't allow junk food. Packed lunches brought in from home. During lunchtime, the meals are inspected before they pray over the food, and then children are allowed to eat. If we notice something in the food box or in the meal that shouldn't be in the meal, we do not give them the food. Then school meetings and events are prepared either by the nutrition team. So the nutrition team in school have also undergone training on nutrition and healthy feeding. If they are not the ones cooking the meal, then our 3 major vendors take charge of the school meetings and events, and they know what to do, supervised by a member of the school nutrition team. So if I say, oh, it's Maize Meals and More that is catering for our graduation ceremony, a member of the school inspecting team would be with her on the day she's preparing our meals to ensure that all the standards and all the policies concerning our school meals and lunches are followed. Then you now have birthday parties. We don't allow junks, no sweets, no Ribena, no nothing. And even if you have to make cakes, we encourage you not to so much ice the cake, because the children, most of them don't even, now that they know that sugar is unhealthy. And you hear them when parents come in with those colorful cakes. Sophia the First, Spider-Man. They'll not say, Miss Dumebi, hey, parents brought sugar to kill us. Because we've told them it's bad for your health, it's bad for your heart. They say, hey, and sometimes they'll say it, whoa, Philippa, your mommy brought cake that is bad for children. Oh, she wants to kill us. You want to kill us? They'll now go and say that, Ma, don't you know that the cake you brought is bad? So even the parents now don't want to be embarrassed that way. So you just bring, because we understand that the colorful cakes look fine in picture. That's the only thing those colorful cakes do. they just look fine in picture. Oh, so that when you are 2 years old, you took birthday cake with Batman and Sophia, but nobody touches it. The children don't want to touch it at all. So we have, for parents who decide to use our vendors, they make very healthy banana like looking. You know that they have banana cakes looking like cakes now. That they put the topper, happy birthday, and then they now decorate it with the color of the birthday child. So you can have green bows or pink bows or red bows to just make it look nice. If they want other toppers, they could print out those things they print and just drop it on it. But everything they are eating is healthy. Then they now have smoothies for their parties, and then water. If you want as a rule, we don't feed children party packs in school. We pack your party pack. Your parent comes and they carry your party pack. If your parent decides to give you what is in the party pack, all well and good. If not, that is for you all at home. But the children, if you're bringing a party pack from outside, because there are some things we can't also control, we don't let the children have party packs in school. And if you're bringing a party pack, it must have healthy items inside. Then you now have after school and clubs. The same thing applies. So this is a club activity, and they're having beans and plantain. And they finish their food. We teach children not to waste food. That's why the curriculum is such an important part of food policy. You relate it to other important things that they have heard about. For instance, why don't we waste food? Because even Jesus in the Bible did not waste food. And so when they see that food is being wasted, they say, hey, this person doesn't want to go and meet Jesus. He's wasting food. So they try as much as possible to eat. And before we feed children food, we make sure they have engaged themselves and are very hungry. When you feed children when they are filled up, they won't eat. And you have lots of waste around. So we have also programmed our time based on the ages of the children. We have certain times that we feed the toddlers, certain times that the nursery children eat, certain times that the elementary children eat, to make sure that they eat their food and eat their food well. We have dining environment. How nice is your dining environment? Our children eat in the kitchen in batches, and there's something about eating in a kitchen. There's something about eating in a very clean dining. So we also have policies for that. Break time snacks and drinks. Talk shops. We don't sell food in school. It's not encouraged because I don't like children even carrying money. So anything that has to do with children bringing money into school, we eliminate it totally. So we do not have talk shops, but we can help other schools set up the policies for talk shops, but we do not have talk shops in our school. Water, food allergens, and then the curriculum. Okay, next slide, please. So you now have implementation. So this is a club activity. This is reading club activity. And they had just done something on Rapunzel, I guess, and they were having a picnic party. So you have apples and grapes, you have muffins, and then you have a Ribena bottle donated by a parent. Most times too, we have cheat days. I will explain cheat days to you. Then you now have them having parfait. My daughter knows how to make parfait. Just give her the ingredients and she goes. Most of the children in her classroom. Okay, this is my daughter here. This is Adesua over here. Yes. So all these are school activities. They're having parfait or something over here. Sometimes they make them themselves and they enjoy. We always limit the things that children can do. They love activities. So sometimes they just want to take charge of whatever event that they are doing, and we allow them. On the condition, though, whenever children recommend a meal, they must make sure there are no leftovers. So before they come up with, oh, Miss Dumebi, you want to have this, would you finish it? If you won't finish it, don't bother. And if you don't finish it, you won't have the opportunity to recommend meals again. So every time they make something, they do try their best to finish their meals. Next slide, please. You also have so consultation. Who do you meet after you have developed your plan? You talk to parents. You talk to the powerful parents. You know, there are parents that they might be silent, but they have influence. We bring them on board. We have a patron here. That's Justice Sade. We have another there, you know. And then that's me explaining. I think I'm holding a bottle of water. We had come up with one nutrition plan for birthday parties. I think that was when we said we now wanted to have a particular vendor catering to all the children's birthday parties. So it's also included in the bill, sort of. You just pay for it, and then on the birthday, she prepares the banana wholesome. So I had to explain the importance of that and why we were trying so much to cut out the sugar from the regular cakes that come on board. Before then, though, we had consultations with different parents to get their opinion, to know how well. But like I said, we usually don't have much resistance when it comes to policies because everybody knows it's for the benefit of their child. Okay? So an example of a statement, starting from September 2021, for instance, you let them know why. So this document will be sent to every member of the school community before the meeting takes place. Starting from September 2021, we aim to ensure healthier food and drinks provided at all times and day, and you now have a document listing all that you plan to do for the term or for the session. Next slide, please. Then after the consultation, okay, so these are school events too. This is our school pharmacist talking about the importance of having children eat well to also eliminate drugs. You know, they said food prescription, no longer taking drugs. So here she was talking about how you could even eliminate some of the drugs that we give our children and replace it with food, healthy food, nutritious food. Then this is one of our vendors, Maize Meals and More. And you can see she's serving here bole and fish with pepper sauce, prepared under the strict guidelines that we gave to her as a school. We don't always eat fried rice, majorly because of, you know, they tell you fried rice must have sausages, corned beef, and all of that. As much as possible, try to eat foods that are not canned. As much as possible, for all our events, we try to cut out any meal that will involve you canning or putting canned food into whatever we are doing. Okay, so she too is very innovative about the food that she serves. Sometimes we have isewu, sometimes we have pepper soup, sometimes not the regular, because I know that Nigerians like rice everywhere. Rice. So she's also very innovative about the kinds of food that we serve. Next, please. I'm almost done. Thank you. And then you now implement. Thank you. So, and then you now implement, all right? Now you can see we are frying akara here. And it's always good to link it with the school curriculum. Now they have had a story time on a book called Akara Boy. And part of the activity was prepare akara, stating the nutritious values in akara. So you have them dressed African, and that's Zara, preparing akara. And they never forget it. So when you ask Zara, what is in akara? She's able to tell you everything, all the nutrients that are found in akara. She's able to relate that to you. Next slide, please. And then these are my head teachers who help me with the implementation. Then you monitor and you review. Okay, we have other pictures here. We have implementation for school lunches, talk shop. Then we take surveys. What are we doing right? What are we not doing right? Which food do you enjoy? Which food didn't you enjoy? We do all of that. And then, you know, we just enjoy letting people know that healthy eating can be very, very interesting and very, very fun. Next slide. We celebrate our successes. There are days when we just have cheat days. Okay. We have tried, we've been healthy for about 13 weeks. What can we do to just, relax a bit? we have those kind of days too, where we celebrate, we give awards to children who have been showing exemplary healthy eating habits. We award parents who were very supportive of it. We award classes that showed good nutrition activities during the term, during the session, and it encourages them. The children want to go home with badges as we call them most nutritious child or healthy eating champions. They love gaining those badges. So we have days when we invite parents and we recognize children for doing that. I think I'm done. Is that all? So important guidelines. You have guidelines. Please let me just go through this. If you have a boarding school, your food handlers and cooks must have a knowledge of nutrition. In fact, all schools that have cooking departments, your handlers must have knowledge of nutrition. Your cooks should attend workshops to improve their cooking skills. Very important. And then you have that down. Boarding schools with less than 60 boarders should have one cook. When they are now above 60 but less than 100, a chief cook and an assistant. So this is an international standard. It applies to all Montessori schools, and I follow the UK Montessori standard. So this is what most of them come to inspect before they give us our Montessori certifications. Then for 300 to 500 students, you should have 3 cooks and 1 chef cook. There are reasons for this, but I won't be explaining that now. Can we move on? I'm almost done. Is that all? Okay, and then for school lunches, please closely monitor your children's lunches. Make sure they are very healthy. Find alternative means of providing lunches to those that cannot bring lunch from home. We also have a plan for that too. And then advice on the disadvantage of buying food from fast food outlets. Like I said, I work with autistic children and children with special needs. A lot of times they come to school very hyperactive after eating meals from fast food. So as much as possible, please discourage your children and even parents that bring those foods to school for parties and all of that, please discourage it. It doesn't help the children in any way. I think I'm done. I think school canteens and all of that. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening.
Every superwoman is a superman. Your love give me time when you know it, understand.
Can we celebrate Mrs. Ehigiator, please? How many of us feel like enrolling in Hadassah Hall at this point?
My dear.
It's like, let's go back in time, create a time machine, and just put us there. Because that is some detailed world-class stuff.
The passion was just so palpable.